person that was there, another person that was there, and he could make that composite because Garland has been someone that we've all grown up with, and he's like that little brother to a lot of us in this room, especially me, especially with my age. But he's also that big brother, and I don't mean big as far as say height, just big when it comes down to knowledge and what he does and what he has done as our lieutenant governor here in the great state of Michigan. And now, as he is running for the Secretary of State position here. So we're looking for great things to come from Mr. Garland Gilchrist, the Honorable Garland Gilchrist, who will be the Secretary of State elect for this great state of Michigan. Garland Gilchrist. And this young lady sitting next to me, I know that I would be remiss. I know when I came in here today and she sat next to me in the front, I looked at her and I'm like, who is this beautiful lady sitting here next to me? And I didn't know, and I said, I think she might be one of the panelists. And I was telling Kimberly over there, and I'm like, I think she's the panelist that's gonna be here. But I knew that there was great things that was gonna come from her when I looked and saw her sitting over there. And now that I've got the pleasure to be sitting right there next to Elder Leslie Matthews. We can clap it up more for that. I mean, we knew the other two men down here, but let's clap. This is a ladies' room in here, so we want to make sure that the ladies get all kind of love. And one thing I want to do too, before we get started, let's give a hand to Reverend Sheffield, because this is his house. And we want to make sure that we recognize this is his house, and this is a beautiful facility. When I was a child, I used to come here to the library when it was the Richard branch of the library, and many of you probably have these same memories of coming here as well. So again, Chantel Watkins, soon to be Chantel Watkins Sheffield. So let's give her some love as well too. But everybody knows that this is a very, very crucial election. This is a midterm election that a lot of people sit out. And this is going to be an election that we don't want anyone to sit out. We don't want anyone to sit home, because we saw what happened 2 years ago when there were close to 1 million people that sat home and did not get out and vote. This time around, because usually it's hard to get people to come out during a midterm election, but we want people to come out in masses. We want you not only to come out to your polling sites, those of you who haven't voted absentee, to make certain that if you do come out and take somebody, as they always say, Reverend Sheffield, take your souls to the polls. And it's not just the souls that you walk on, but take the souls. And I mean, when I say souls, I mean here, these souls. Because these are the souls that's trying to get good people like Garland, like Donovan, elected into some positions that we know we're trying to make certain that we can make a great change. And right now that great change starts with, especially with these two men over here. But I do want to go, and I want to say safe travels to Isaiah Martin, who was supposed to be in this seat, and I was supposed to be out there in your seat with you. But he is traveling here, so we're hoping and praying for safe and traveling mercies for him on his way here. So today, let's get started. I just want to ask everybody, in this audience, to be thinking about the fact that why is voting more important than ever in this moment? So that's what I'm going to ask my esteemed panelists to go and talk about, that as to why they believe that voting is more important than ever, especially in this midterm election in 2026. And I'll start with Donovan, the Honorable Donovan McKinney. And I have to make sure I remind myself to say the Honorable, because I've got all these honorable people up here, especially Elder Leslie Matthews up here as well. So again, Garland, Donovan, I want to ask you both, and then I want to ask Esther, Elder Leslie Matthews also, why is voting more important than ever now?
Thank you, Darwin. I want to give a shout out to, again, Reverend Sheffield for allowing us to host this convening at his center. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out on the hottest day of the year so far. We're going through some power outages right now. I've been literally calling people back and trying to, really help out with that situation, because it's just sad what's happening to our communities every time it gets hot and the grid overloads. So that's another topic for another day. But I like to always start off saying you can be anywhere with us this afternoon, this evening, and it means so much. And thank you for coming out, really, seriously. Again, my name is Donovan McKinney, serve as your state representative. I'm running to represent you guys in Congress here in the 13th District. And why is voting more important now than ever? How many people heard about the Voting Rights Act in 1965? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So you guys are in tune to what's happening. And you heard what happened in the Supreme Court decision just a few weeks ago, overturning, pretty much gutting the VRA. Now, it didn't happen overnight, right? It happened over the years. It took them 40 plus years from 1965 to get a Supreme Court hearing to gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act back in 2012. And it took them 14 years from there to pretty much do it and gut it completely. But it happened in increments. And right now, more than anything, you saw what happened overnight when the Supreme Court made that decision. There was 10, 12 states down south they either canceled their primary elections, or they called the special legislative session. They called in the state legislature to call in a special session to redraw these districts. And you saw an outright attack on majority minority districts, on districts that represented urban centers, urban cores, and an attack on all of us to have our voices heard. And so for me, you gotta utilize your voice by utilizing your vote. Now, people tell me all the time, my vote doesn't matter, why should I do it? And it's an old cliche to say that your ancestors have fought for it and died. But that cliche is still ringing true today. How many people heard of the recent attacks down south in particular, not just on our voting rights, but on just our human black lives right now? People are being hung by nuisance still in the year 2026. I saw what happened in, Tennessee? I think it was Tennessee, when those state troopers kneeled on the neck of a black man, put him in a county jail, and he died the next day, right? When we seeing these disappearances of our black youth, and we're thinking it happened just for the sake of happening. No, this is a direct attack on all of us to be able to live a life that's worth living, and being able to be human, and being able to be a citizen. Now I'll say this and I'll pass the mic, Darwin. The other issue that a lot of people aren't talking about is the birthright citizenship issue. If you're born in this country, does that make you a citizen? Yes or no? Yes, you would think so, right? Supreme Court, I'm proud of their decision. It's one of the good things they actually did, was uphold the birthright citizenship for those born from a subset of people, which is those born in this country, born from non-citizens. They got to keep their citizenship. But guess what happened with Donald Trump? Literally, the aftermath. He said, you know what, don't send me another bill. Send me Republican Congress. He told them, send me the bill that's going to end birthright citizenship. And you think this is impacting just our migrant immigrant communities, our brown brothers and sisters? You got that wrong. This impacts every single person in this room, under this building, because I'm only able to hold office. Me and Garland are able to run for office because of the 14th Amendment, because of the birthright citizenship, because we're still considered 3/5 in the US Constitution. It's never been outlawed or eliminated. It's still right there, black and white. It's just unenforceable because of the 14th. And so we need to understand that this democracy we're living under, our voting, like people keep saying it doesn't matter. Trust me, it does, because this is going to be setting out our future, not just for us, but what type of world we're going to leave our kids and grandkids. So with that being said, I'll pass the mic to our amazing, esteemed Lieutenant Governor, soon-to-be Secretary of State, Garland Gilchrist.
I'm gonna tell y'all what I think, but I'm gonna defer to the elder.
Well, good evening. First of all, let me say thank you to State Senator, am I right? House Rep,
Yeah.
Donovan McKinney. I just gave you an elevation. To my brother Dwight, thank you very much. And to my Lieutenant Governor, I want to thank you too as well. And to the good Reverend Sheffield for this opportunity to sit here and have a conversation before these people, your people. I think my job here today is to set a fire. Yeah. I think that's what my job is. I cannot tell you necessarily where I work at because that might be against the law in this type of setting, but some of you here know who I am and know what I have done in my community because I love my community. Voting right now today is crucial. As a matter of fact, our lives depend on it. If we do not get out and vote in this particular election, and I'm not talking about in November, but I'm talking about in August, if we don't get out in forces, then the quality of life that we have right now, and I'm not even talking about 10 years ago, which was probably better, but right now it's going to get worse. So it is essential that we get involved. It's essential that we light fires around everyone on our block, in our community, in our churches, in our mosques, in our temple, wherever we have influence. That's what we need to be doing. Because if we do not, then they will be successful with passing a law that will take away the birthright citizenship. They will be successful in doing the gerrymandering that they want to do so that there's no quality of life for any person of color or anybody that is poor in stature. Yeah.
Amen.
I told you I'm getting ready to light it up.
Amen. You?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, look. When it comes to the question about why voting is important and why we need everyone who is eligible to do it, I think it boils down to understanding something that one of my OGs told me, Darwin. He said that we sat in so that you could vote. We didn't sit in so that you would sit out. We didn't sit in so that you would give up. We didn't sit in so that you would believe that, man, stuff is so hard and so broken and we can't do nothing about it, so we might as well let it stay that way. The reason that Republicans and conservatives and MAGA and these racists, the reason that they attack our voting rights is because they know how powerful we would be if we used them. You don't try to take away power from people who are powerless. You do not take away power from people who know what they're capable of. But the only reason that they've been able to systematically demolish the Voting Rights Act is because too many of us slept on our opportunity to assert ourselves. And so this year is an opportunity for us to reassert exactly who we are. That we are the people who get to determine the trajectory of our communities and this state and this country. And the fact that it is not working for so many people, the fact that there are systems that are failing us, the fact that too many of us can't afford food, the fact that it is so hot in this building and in so many buildings across this city, and that people don't have power because their utility company has failed them even though they charge them more money every year. The fact that that has happened is because too many of us chose to sit out. The reason I'm running for Secretary of State of Michigan, to be the chief election official and the guardian of those voting rights in Michigan, is because I had somebody tell me, She said, look, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do. I'm taking care of my kid. I'm taking care of my parents. I'm working. I ain't making enough money, but I'm working. I can't afford childcare, but I'm working. I'm trying to do my best. But man, it feels like I'm running in place here. And it feels like Trump has been able to trample on us in a very specific way. Raised every price in my life. And she looked at me, Elder, and she said, but look, if Donald Trump can wreck voting the same way he raised prices, then all of us are screwed. Because my vote is the thing that I use to fix the systems that fail me and fail this community. Yes. We can vote corporate power and corporate money out of our politics. We can vote for protecting and stewarding our environment and our water. We can vote prices down. We can vote for our voting rights to be protected and expanded. We did that in the last 2 election cycles in Michigan with Promote the Vote 1 and 2.
Yes, we did.
We know what this looks like when we participate. So all of us have a responsibility to make sure we are doing the work and the organizing and the connecting and having the conversations so that no eligible Michigander walks away from that power. And when we do that this year, we will send a message, we will send a signal that no one can ignore in Detroit, in Lansing, or in Washington. And that is what I need all of you to make sure that you do, and that you make sure that everybody else in your life understands that. Yeah. Because we need them. Without that full participation, we end up in a cycle where all of us get washed out. So that's what we need to think about right now.
You know, one thing that is so great is that we have to make certain that we stay woke. Because as it is right now, some of us have been sleeping on the job. In this midterm election, we have to stay woke. And what I want you to do, whenever I say stay woke, what I want you to do is say, I am. Stay woke.
I am.
And I want you to continue to stay woke. Now, in the wake of this rollback of the Voting Rights Act, how will you use your position or your future position to protect voting rights? And I'll start with young lady. I'll start with you first.
Well, in my position, the thing that I can do is strategize. I can pull together my community through churches, temples, mosques, and begin to talk about how we win, the plan to win. Right now, where we are all acting like we're all individuals. We don't have a plan. We don't have an agenda. We don't have a party that's even giving us an agenda that we can all agree to and say, this is what we want and this is the direction that we're going to go in. I think that what we need to do strategically, and I already mentioned it, is begin to take full responsibility and accountability for the future that we want for our children. And what that means is that if you somebody's grandmama, you somebody's auntie, somebody's uncle, then you take a few hours out of your week, get your friends together and begin some type of text party. Begin to knock doors in your neighborhood. Begin to talk about the candidates that you say that you want in office. Talk about how you know them and why you think that they are a good fit for that particular office. You have to get involved. We have to stop allowing the television to tell us what to do. We have been put in a position where most of us probably have had maybe 6 months of civic education. And when you think about the political system in which we are involved in, it's so vast and so huge until it looks like it's just coming from all different directions at a crazy speed. And so most people just throw their hands up at the whole process. Well, we have to stop throwing our hands up at the process. We have got to start being neighbors again and talking to one another about exactly what we want in our community and in our nation. We have to stop thinking that Washington, D.C. is going to fix Detroit, is going to fix Southfield, going to fix Oak Park. No, that's your local elections. That's where we need to be concentrating. Our state level elections, that's where we need to be concentrating, because that's how that money comes down to fund our communities, to build the communities that we want. So we have got to begin to get involved. We have to stop with the mentality of people leading us. Become the leader that you want. That's what you need to do. Become the leader that you want. Each one of these gentlemen was a little boy at some point, and they grew up. Each one of them became dissatisfied with what they saw. Each one of them said, well, let me get involved in the system in which I am dissatisfied with. And so they took that leap of faith and they became an elected official. Now, me, on the other hand, that's not my position. But certainly I have the position of support. I know what I want in my Secretary of State. I know what I want in my Secretary of State. I know what I want in my congressperson. And I'm willing to fight for the thing that I want. I'm willing to open up my mouth for the thing that I want. We've been too quiet for too long. Like he said, stay woke. What did he say? I am. Stay woke. Because elections have consequences. And we already know that if you're not invited to the dinner table, more than likely you're the one that's on the menu. So we have to go back and we have to go get some radical politics, some radical ideologies. We got to get some liberation ideologies. And we got to stick to that thing. And we got to make sure that the thing that we vote for is the thing that's going to help everybody and not just one segment of our population.
I think we need to talk about not only what needs to happen, but it's important that we make clear when we're talking about the stakes of these elections, it's important to make clear both what we want to start and what we want to stop. I got to tell you something. Every time we've seen this MAGA movement get their hands on a position, they use it to consolidate power and hurt people. Every time they get their hands on data and information, they use it to target people, surveil people, and hurt people. The reason they see the Michigan Secretary of State's office as the #1 election official election that they have to win is because they know that what happens in Michigan matters. And they know that the election results in Michigan matter. And they know that how Michigan goes in 2028 will determine the presidency. And so they want to make sure that there is a MAGA person who will, if Trump picks up the phone and calls him, he will say, sir, yes, sir, and do whatever he wants him to do, no matter how illegal, unethical, immoral, dumb, or wrong it is. They want somebody they trust, not somebody that you can trust.
Say that again.
I got to tell you about, look, I'm going to talk about what I'm going to stop, then we're going to talk about what we're going to start. Like, y'all, my opponent is a guy who hired a January 6th insurrectionist to recruit poll workers. My opponent is a guy who is a QAnon conspiracy theorist who went to a QAnon event in 2021. My opponent is already coordinating with the corrupt Trump Justice Department based on election lies and placating election deniers. Has been silent on these election monitors that they sent to Detroit to monitor Donovan's election in the primary for the purposes of intimidation. You see, what we have to start and how I can serve people as Secretary of State of Michigan is to make sure that, look, I'm gonna stand tall for votes and voting and voters in the face of this assault on my democracy.
That's what we need, yeah.
And to make sure that if somebody tries to come for those rights, they're gonna meet some real aggressive lawyers.
Yeah, there you go.
That if somebody does try to come for those ballots and try to come through a door like that, they gotta go through a 6'8" guy to get to it.
That's what I'm talking about.
To make sure that we are working to actually expand access to eligible voters, not fight over people they trying to kick out of our community. Because we are not afraid of people participating. We are not afraid of citizens voting. We are not afraid of people having a say. And you gotta ask yourself, if they are afraid of you talking, if they are afraid of you voting, if they are afraid of your presence,
Yes.
then why would we lay down and accept them? So we have an opportunity and obligation. I got a role to play as Secretary of State, but we all have a role to play to build a movement it takes to win for our people.
Absolutely. Come on. Do y'all want to know why Trump has so much power? It's because we have a 3 branches of government system that is failing us right now with no checks and balances from the other 2 branches. Right? The judicial is the courts. The courts literally just gave this president full-fledged immunity. Then we got Congress that literally lacks courage to stand up to him because they are afraid of his influence and money in their elections. And to me, we need to start putting people in these positions who have courage. Courage to me doesn't necessarily mean the absence of being afraid. Courage to me means even when you are afraid,
That's right.
you still do the right thing on behalf of the people you represent. And I got to give a shout out to 2 amazing people who flew in for this event today. And their names are Malak Kuros and Chris Rabb. Malak just won her congressional seat in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
Stand up. And Chris just won his congressional seat in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And with your help, in 3 weeks' time, on August 4th, I'm looking to join these 2 in the halls of Congress to push our government to have courage, to stand up to this big boogeyman we call the Orange Man, that I'm not afraid of. And I'll say this real quick, I'm only afraid of 2 things in life. And that's God, and that's my wife. And sometimes not in that order. And for my married men, y'all know what I'm talking about. But we need people in these positions that's willing to put their careers on the line and willing to put their lives on the line for the greater good, to push for each and every one of us to have the rights and privileges to live a life that's worth living. So to your point, we got to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights and Advancement Act on day 1. Have to do that. And 2, we got to give our state and county and local officials the ability to operate as they should and not send DOJ, Department of Justice, in because they're scared of our voice and they're scared of our vote. Why would they be spending all of this money to deter us, to try to hoodwink us to think that our lives and our voice don't matter, when exactly it does? This country was built on all of us having the opportunity to make sure that our voices are heard. We got to utilize it, because like this old saying used to say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So y'all better use it, y'all, because it's sacred, and it's being rolled back right in front of our eyes. So thank you, Darwin, for the question. But yeah, we got to keep pushing. We got to utilize our voice. We got 3 weeks, y'all. Make sure it happens. Make sure every single vote matters, and tell the people that it does. Thank you.
And yes, let's give him a hand clap. And Donovan, since you just brought up the Orange Man, let's ask you first, Donovan. Yeah. Does Trump actually have the authority to restrict states' rights to voting?
Nope. Some call the 10th Amendment, which is essentially whatever that's not laid out in the Constitution. It belongs to the states to figure out. And so right now, the states have free and fair elections, no matter what Trump's trying to do. I know my mom, shout out to my mom, she's in the building. My beautiful mom. She called me this morning in a panic. She was like, man, listen, Trump trying to call martial law. He trying to do all this crazy stuff. How's it going to impact you in our elections? And I was like, listen, I don't know the answer because I don't know what this man's doing. Like every day, he's very erratic. Literally, I don't know what's happening with him. But what I do know, what I can guarantee, is that if we utilize our voices by utilizing our vote, we can push back against what he's doing. But we can't be scared to do so. Like I got folks right now, I got a senior that I just talked to, because I've been going to a lot of senior buildings and just talking to the elders about their issues. And like one of them just told me, she's like, I have never witnessed in my 92 years on this planet the issues that we're going through right now in the year 2026. She feels like everything is being rolled back and that we're going back to the times of Jim Crow, to the times of black codes, and possibly the time of slavery. And she's like, Donovan, what can we do? And I literally I told her this. I looked her in the eyes and I said, we will not go back, but we have to get our younger people involved, number one, because they don't feel like their voices matter. And they don't really see the tools that they can utilize within the toolbox. And I tell them voting isn't going to solve every problem. It isn't. It's not going to change things overnight. But what it can do is a tool in the toolbox we got to utilize to ensure that all the rights and privileges that we are protected with right now does not get ripped away from us. And so to her, I said, keep voting, but I need her. She voted absentee, she's 92, but I need her to convince, and I'm willing to call people on the phone with her, convince her grandkids, convince her nieces, her nephews, her cousins to go out there and vote. I know I can't stress it enough. I know people say voting don't matter, but damn it, it does. It does. And I'll say this too. The majority, the Democratic majority, I got the survey in last term, first time in 40 years, Democrats had the majority of the House, Senate, and the governor. And the Supreme Court, literally, in our state of Michigan, first time in 40 years, this has happened. But in Congress, you know how big their majority is in the House right now? 2 seats right now. 2 seats. And the Senate is, well, rest in peace. Some people don't say rest in peace, but rest in peace to Lizzie Graham. I know Mitch is on the deathbed too. But like, these seats are critical. If we can just get 4 or 5 more Democrats elected, we can have the majorities in both the Senate and the Congress, and we can hold this orange man accountable. But we gotta utilize our voice by utilizing our vote, and we gotta tell people, these are the margins we're working with. It's not like we need a lot of people to come out and like vote to make it happen. We just need to up the ante by 10 to 20%. That's it. And we'll win these elections in a landslide. We will. We will. But it's on us to get the vote out. It's not just on me and Garland and Elder Leslie and Darwin as community leaders. It's on all of us to do so. So bring the souls to the polls. Bring everybody to the polls that you can to make sure this happens. But you got to utilize your voice by utilizing your vote.
Garland.
Yeah. Just a question?
Yes, please.
The answer to the Donald Trump, can he stop the election? No. And whenever you hear somebody say that to you, you should tell them that they're wrong. Like, we ain't got to overcomplicate this. Donald Trump does not run the election in Michigan. In Michigan, the people elect a Secretary of State who oversees the State Bureau of Elections. That's who runs the election. He don't have the authority to stop the Postal Service from mailing you your mail-in ballot. The judge just threw that out. This whole thing with the Save America Act that our state House that is currently run by Republicans, they've tried to introduce this legislation because why? Because they are afraid of married women who change their names voting. But that's not law. One of the most important things that all of us can do is that when somebody asks you a question that is based on a lie, you need to tell them the truth. And so I just want to make this really simple. When someone says something, a question that has anything that rhymes with, can Donald Trump do this to stop me from voting? The answer is no. But the way that we stop from going backward is by pushing forward. And so we have to make sure that the way we keep our power, the way we keep that authority, the way we maintain our ability to determine how elections work in our state is we got to get out and vote for it. So that is our opportunity. When they ask you a question based on a lie, tell them the truth, and then make sure you vote to keep our power.
So I don't have anything to add to that. I believe that you all have efficiently, told them what needs to be done. But let me share this with you. As community, everybody should be a part of the community. And one of the things that needs to happen is the older people, and I love the older people, I'm an older person. Please get out of the way of the younger people. The younger people have ideas. They have the energy. They want to go. They want to run. But sometimes we get in the way, and I'm not talking about you all, you're right age. They get in the way and they become gatekeepers and they stop the younger ones from being developed. One of the problems in our community is that we do not develop our leadership. We do not develop our electoral leadership. What I am expecting from my soon-to-be congressman, I'm expecting him to begin to bring young men and young women from around the area in which he's been elected from. Bring them to Washington, D.C. Show them how Washington, D.C. works. Let them know what it takes to get to Washington, D.C. The Honorable late John Conyers took my son, flew him to Washington, D.C. as a part of the Black Congressional Congress. And it just opened up a whole new world. And I believe right now the younger people are being sheltered. And I believe they're being shut down. So if we're really talking about the future, then we have got to let the future live. We have got to stop devouring our future. I mean, we can look at what even happened with Donovan and how there was an attempt for another person to even come into the race. And I was livid, and I was very vocal, very, very vocal about that, because this young man, this is what I can tell you about this young man. When I go up to Lansing, Michigan and say, this is what I think would benefit our communities, will you work with me on that? Can we do some co-governance on that? Donovan looks at the bill, the proposed bill, and said, hey, Elder, I think we may have to change it around a little bit like this, and I think that this can work. But he works with me. He works with us, and that's what we need in Washington, D.C. We need someone who is going to listen to us, not do what they want to do, not do what the special interest groups want them to do, but they're going to truly be the representative of the people. That's where our problem is right there. That's why, that to me is why politics have become so toxic and so harmful. That's why you get voter apathy, because we send people out there to do one job and they do the job that they want to do. And we don't see the results that we want to see in our communities. So we have to stop sitting on these young people, and we have to help these young people. We know the way, so let us help them get to the way so that they can become all that they should become and become representatives of the people.
Let's take a little change now. We're going to kind of get a little bit more of civic engagement in the community. And I'm going to give people a chance in the audience to ask some questions to our esteemed panelists. But let me start with the first question that I want to ask the three of you. And if you could just make your, answer real short and sweet, okay, so we can take questions from the audience. But the main question I just want to ask you right now is, what do you suggest needs to be done to get young people engaged in this civic engagement process. Because sadly enough, there's a lot of young people that don't understand about civics. They don't know how to go and vote. They don't know how to go about reading a ballot. And in a lot of cases, they don't understand the different elected positions that are looking for your support on the ballot as well. What do you think? And see, she just made a great point, and that's one of the things that I think that we're going to bring up during this Q&A, is to find out just how important is it that we need civics back into the classroom again. But I'll ask you each just to give a quick response, as far as say to that. What do you young people engaged? Now I'll start with you, Garland.
We need to trust them.
And we gotta bring love back in our communities, y'all. There's so much hate, there's so much division. Like, you wake up every morning, and I say this all the time, you open up this smartphone and you're inundated with so much division. And I talk to the young people a lot. I mentor them. Got a lot of my younger cousins that I talk to. And a lot of them don't feel seen. Yeah, they don't feel heard, but they don't really feel like the community cares about them. And I remember growing up knowing that my community cared, because I remember going block to block. We used to get in trouble and all that stuff, and we got dealt with by community right then and there. And then by the time we got home, we got dealt with at home. But then, I remember the elders used to be on their porch, and they used to talk to us, and they used to give us game. I remember the older men used to tell us how to get the girls, and then I remember some of the women used to tell us, like, hey, this is what life's about. But now you don't really see that community as much. It's there, but it's not as present. And so, it's on us. The onus is on us to bring that love back, to have those conversations. And last thing I'll say on this, I got elders who straight up tell me they're afraid to even reach out or talk to the youth. And I got youth who are afraid to even engage with the elders. And so it's the intergenerational gap and divide we got to close. But it starts with love.
I think you're right when you said it starts with love, but I think it's also, once again, it's about engagement. When is the last time you took your niece, your nephew, your grandchild to the polls with you? People do what they see other people do. So even as a 5-year-old, you should let them go to the poll with you to see how important it is in terms of what it is that you're doing. I also think that birthday parties, I don't think that you should have a birthday party and you're turning 18 years old unless you can show to the people in your family that you have a voter registration card, right? We're gonna give you a huge party
I like that.
if you have your voter registration card. Also, I think that the youth are gonna have to begin to talk to one another. I think that they're so individualized and so siloed until they don't even know what a future and what hope is. I don't think they're talking to one another. So I don't think that they're bouncing off of each other to have an idea of what life could be like if they got involved with trying to make a change.
And and that's a great point. But one thing I want to do is I want to acknowledge people, especially for what they do. Because a lot of times we don't get that recognition. And one of the things that you were just saying in terms of say about bringing young people, this room should be half full with young people.
Yeah.
The young people are out for the summer vacation. And this room should be packed, where there should be a lot of young people in this room learning. This is where our legacy is going to start with. And I'm going to ask one person to recognize the young person that she brought in this room today. And I'm pointing right there at her. I see her fanning. I want you to stand up, and I want you to give your name, and I want this young person that's with you to give her name as well, so that we can recognize this could be our future leader for tomorrow. So let's recognize, young lady, what is your name, please? Candace, if you could take the mic over there to her.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia Hale.
And that beautiful young lady standing next to you.
Hi, my name is Lauren.
Let's give them a nice hand clap. And Lauren, I bet you didn't think that you were going to get recognized like this today when you came out here, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Let's give her another hand, too. Okay, so are there any questions that anyone wants to ask? And we want to keep these questions not to pontificate, but just to ask a question as opposed to pontificating. And I'm going to start with Gary Hunter.
We just had a senator from Michigan vote against the housing bill, against the Democrats, against the Black Caucus. What are we going to do to make sure that when people leave our neighborhoods that they keep us in interest? Slocum just voted. If you talk to any Black Caucus members, I just left Colorado with Joe Nacuz and a couple other places, and they're all frustrated. Gary, what's going on? Danny Davis, who's retiring, but he's still upset. Robin Kelly, I just left him. And it's so hurting that, number one, we don't have a Black Caucus member. Number two, we don't seem to have people that are sensitive to the Black cause. And y'all know I get upset all the time because I go all over this country. Matter of fact, when I went to introduce Mayor Sheffield to the governor of California and the governor of Illinois, J.B. and Newsom, they said, They forget I live in Detroit. Remember when the lieutenant governor tried to introduce you to me in Illinois? I'm there so much, but my question is, what do we do to make sure y'all represent us? I know I'm frustrated that y'all really don't advertise for Black folk, but that's a different story. But I really want to know, what are we going to do to make sure, number one, that the people are alive? When I mean alive, they know what we're talking about. They know what the issues are. He just knocked down the court's just knocked down where they can go over, do what they want to do with food stamps. People might pay attention to that. That just got knocked down. But what are we going to do to make sure that our representation is our representation?
So Gary, the way that you get leverage over an elected official is you got to have leverage over them before they get there. And one of the reasons why I am so frustrated with the way that money flows through our politics and corporate money flows through our politics and how much leverage rich people have in our politics is because that seems to be what influences the phone calls that a lot of elected officials take. It seems to be what influences the meetings that they take or show up at. As Secretary of State of Michigan, one of the responsibilities I will have is to oversee campaign finance law in Michigan. Meaning that when somebody violates that law, when money is used illegally, when a sitting elected official uses their government resources to impact their election, it'll be my job to hold them accountable. It'll be my job to oversee the website that currently exists but has some significant problems. Where you can see who is spending money in our politics, how much they're spending it, when they're spending it, and on whom. In order for us to get this dark, dirty money out of our politics, the first thing we have to do is actually be able to see it. And so it's a good thing that, if I'm talking about fixing websites, Gary, like I'm a software developer, I'm really good at fixing websites. And we need to make that one work to lay the foundation for us to get that kind of influence out of our politics. Because you know who's not represented by that big money? Black folks in Detroit. You know who's not represented by that big money? Poor people in rural Michigan or anywhere. See, that money feeds a system that is failing us. So our opportunity here is again to vote for people who come in with those values. Because like, I met most of y'all before I got elected. I don't think I'm that different. What you saw then is what you see now is what you'll get later. And so we have to make sure that we therefore are, again, mobilizing, voting, and talking to make sure that people know what we expect of them as our servants. Like, I'm supporting Donovan because I know what I'm gonna get. He gonna be look, I live in his district. He will be my congressman. And I'm excited about that. That's what we gotta do.
He answered.
Okay, do we have another question, Candace?
I'd like to answer
You wanna-
that.
Hang on. Elder Matthews.
Yeah, I want to answer that. So we were talking about Alyssa Slockins, and the first day that she announced that she was running, there were millions of dollars that came from the intelligence community. That should have been a red flag right there, right there. What we have to have is clarity. We have to be clear about who is for us and who is against us, and we have to vote accordingly. Now, if the person gets in office that's not necessarily for us, then we have to show up to that office, and we have to demand accountability. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent, because let me tell you something. We ran a campaign, and we ran Dave Trott out of office because we went to his office every week in a chicken suit, every week, and knocked on the door with hundreds of people to tell him how just dissatisfied we were with his voting record in Congress. And guess what? He was a one-term congressperson. He left. He couldn't take it. So that's what we have to do. We have to stop sending people to Washington, D.C. every 2 to 4 years and forget about them. The day one, after they are sworn in, we need to be looking at what they're doing, looking at our agenda, looking to see if it's lining up. And if it's not lining up, we need to make some phone calls. And if we got to take a bus, a train, or automobile, or a plane, we need to get there and let them know exactly how we feel about it. And then if that's not enough, when we bring that one crowd, then we bring another. That's how you do that.
Diamond, that made a movie that you want to say something to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. No, listen, Elder. Oh my Lord, yes. I'll say this. Garland's right. Elder's right. Like, we have to have our hand our elected officials early on, even before they get into office. And how do you hold? Like, what do most politicians care about more than anything? Do y'all know? The re-elect, getting re-elected. And so it's a lot of opportunities to hold us accountable. It's the inside-outside strategy that Dr. King always preached and talked about. But you need people at least aligned with you in terms of values, right? I don't need you to always agree with me. I don't have to always agree with you, but our values have to be aligned. And then the execution we might debate on and have some discrepancies and be able to bridge that gap and work around. But like for me running a grassroots campaign, like we're not taking any corporate PAC money in this campaign. Literally, I introduced legislation in the state legislature last term and this term that takes all corporate monopoly money out of our politics, called Taking Back Our Power. And because of the politics in Lansing, we couldn't even get a hearing, because everybody's taking DTE money, all that stuff. So what happened? Organizations and groups and people on the ground decided to take our legislation and try to create a ballot initiative. So they collected over 600,000 signatures statewide. And right now it's in front of the State Board of Canvassers. We'll know in the next few weeks if it gets on this year's November ballot. But we all know if it gets on this November ballot, guess what? It's going to pass with 80% of the vote. You want to know why? Because whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whoever, we all know the corporate influence in our politics is just too much. And so how do you hold people accountable? One is through, as bad press as possible and getting the community revved up, because people want to try to get reelected. But then two, we need to just eliminate all the corporate influence as much as possible to level the playing field to ensure that the people's voices are heard. That's how you're going to start changing some things. But in the meantime, it's going to matter more now than anything. Like, for instance, the land value that, our former mayor wanted. Guess who killed the bill? You want to know why I killed the bill? Because we had a 1-seat majority in both chambers. And all you needed was that one voice and one vote to make sure you kill it. But more importantly, I needed to hear from you all. I went to 30+ black club leaders in my district, and they all came to me and said, H-E-L-L, no, you better not vote for that. And I said, I got my answer. And I told the former administration, I said, you go try to convince the people. And they tried, and they failed. So you need to make sure that you'll let people in there that's willing to listen, but you gotta help us get there first. And so since we're running grassroots, that means I'm not influenced by corporate, but I need y'all to make sure y'all get me in there, to have a voice in there that's gonna represent you. And that's what matters more now than anything.
Thank you, Gary, for that question. Okay, Candace, did you have another question?
Thank you. How y'all doing? My name is Teron Haynes, live in Detroit. First off, I want to say thank you for hosting this. I really appreciate it. Specifically, Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, I follow your career, and I'm really looking forward to voting for you for Secretary of State. I do just want to quickly push back on one of the points here that was discussed about young people. I feel like it's easy as an elder to look at the young people and say they haven't been doing something because they are just incapable or they have this aloof attitude around voting. But one of the reasons why they have an attitude around voting is the posters that are displayed here. The Free Palestine issue has been a major indicator of where young people stand, not just with foreign politics, but with domestic politics and how they want to be represented. So when we talk about the youth, obviously it's extremely important to say we need to trust our youth, put faith in our youth, and uplift them. But if there's no path for that to happen, then we're not really doing anything for them. So it's great to support them now. Like the Occupy the Summer is an amazing thing that's happening in Detroit. But what are y'all doing as, and I'm not saying y'all don't have any plans, but what are we doing as elected officials on a federal level to say, here is what I want to do for the youth that sustains them for the next 20 to 30 years and make sure there is a path to their own, so that they can become leaders. Because I feel like almost disparaging them in the sense that they don't have this feeling about voting because they just don't know or they don't have civics or government knowledge, I think that's incredibly false. I think the young people now are the reason why Michigan had a big money out of politics push. Yeah. Because it's the kids on TikTok who are saying, this elected official is taking too much money from a foreign lobby group. That's not 60 and 70-year-old people, although I know that that is their concern as well. That is the youth that's saying that. So we can't just write them off. We do have to uplift them, and we have to create a path. So my question for Gilchrist, McKinney, what is y'all's path for the youth?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, thank you for coming. I said trust them because I meant that. And, whether you talk about the policy priority, when I say trust young people, let me be a little more specific. We cannot ask people to get engaged and then get mad at them when they get engaged.
That's right. That's right.
So if you say you want people to be part of this process, you say you want people to be active and advocate and organize, you can't get mad at them if they tell you what they want. So if you say that you want everybody to have health care, and then young people say they want everybody to have health care, then I ain't gonna get mad at nobody for saying everybody should have health care, because I agree with that. If you say that you don't want people to be the victims of genocide anywhere on this planet, then we should be okay to say that and declare that. So I think the way that when I say trust, I mean that. I mean that we have to make sure we understand where the energy is and then help people recognize that they are powerful. And so therefore equip them to be able to use their power to make things happen, to change the trajectory of our community. Like, I believe that. Like, I'm about that life, like, for real. And so my job is to make sure that young people feel safe being their most powerful with me. I think part of the problem is, I think there has been some, obfuscation about how this stuff works. And that's intentional. But the truth is, like, making change is not complicated. Making change is getting a whole bunch of people who agree to say they agree on purpose. And then to point that purpose toward who can make a decision about it. And I think actually young people are real good at that. You know how much stuff my kids convince me to do that I don't want to do? Okay? The capability is there. We have to not be afraid of trusting them. You can't work with people you're scared of. You can't lead people you're scared of. You can't listen to people you're scared of. And so I think our opportunity is to, again, if you think of every social movement that has mattered in the history of this country, it was led by somebody younger than you think they were. All the stuff we respect John Lewis for doing, he ain't do that when he was 70, he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
Dr. Martin Luther King died at 35. That means all the stuff we know about happened in his 20s and early 30s. That's why I think what the elder said was important. Why are you in the way? What are you afraid of them leading us to? And so I think that is the posture that we have to take. And I think that if we do not take that posture, we do it at our own peril.
And also breaking down barriers for people to just be their most authentic self, right? So I got elected at 29. I just turned 34. I just wrapped up my Jesus year at 33. Jesus is another example, right? Doing all those things before he turned 33. But I wear, sometimes I'm not always suited and booted. Sometimes I wear my hoodie on the house floor. People give me, faces and all that stuff like, man, why are you dressing like that? And I'm like, because this is my authentic self. This is what my district looks like. This is where I'm a young black man. Grew up in America, grew up right here in Detroit. Be yourself. And so I don't need nobody to tell me what it's like to be myself, because I'm literally the most in tune with myself. And I need to convince my other young people that you have to be yourself, and that's enough. Like, to them, they see us trying to fit in these molds and categories. And in reality, I got people who, the coulda, woulda, shoulda people who, who I talk with a lot, the elders, and no offense to my elders, but they tell me, you know what, I didn't live out my dream, this happened in my life, and I stopped my dream. I want my younger people to realize, whatever dream it is, hopefully it's legal, by the way, they write it down, make it plain like the scripture talks about, and work their tails off to make sure they achieve it. But how do you get them involved in politics in the first place? Is that you got to bring them up with you.
That's right.
So one of the things I was able to do as a state rep, we not only continued on our mentorship program, but we bring in whatever the youth want to come up to Lansing, we take them ourselves. We pay out of our own pockets to bring them up. And then they can see it. They're like, oh my God, you know what? I can see myself here. Because faith is having the ability to believe and not see it. But sometimes our youth need more than just the faith. They gotta be able to physically hold on to it, to physically see you present. And so that's what we bring to the table. And then also structurally, what we can do is continue on with the mentorship programs, the fellowship programs, giving them opportunities that we didn't have growing up. That's how you break down those barriers and get more of our youth involved, and just understanding that this is deeper than politics, and then giving them the heart and the love to say, be yourself, and that's enough.
We've got to pretty much wrap up, because we want to go and let everybody know there is a GOT rally that's going to be conducted after this session is over. So we want to give everybody a chance to really get out to vote. But the thing that I want to do right now is I want to have everybody to give a strong hand clap to this esteemed panel. The Honorable Donovan McKinney. The honor, and soon to be our next, soon to be our next congressman representing the great 13th Congressional District in Washington, D.C. I think we can do better than that. Let's act like he really is going to get our applause. And then we also want to go and we want to recognize our other esteemed panelists, and that is the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, soon to be our next Secretary of State for the great state of Michigan, Garland Gilchrist. And now we also want to recognize Elder Leslie Matthews, who has had some great, and she motivated this crowd to say, hey, we want to get out and vote on August the 4th, and not only do we want to get out and vote, but we want to take our souls to the polls and other souls to the polls to vote. So again, let's recognize Elder Leslie Matthews. I have been so very, very much plumb pleased and pleasured to have been your host today. My name is Darwin Griffin, but I want to say again to everybody in this crowd, when I say stay woke, what are you going to say? I want to hear louder than that. Stay woke. And you are. Stay woke.
I want to just give a shout out to somebody. His plane was delayed, but Darwin, thank you so much for filling in. Literally, we called him a couple hours before the event because Isaiah Martin was delayed. But Isaiah Martin just walked in the door, y'all. Y'all make some noise for him. Appreciate you coming, man. Sorry about the delay, man.
But we were praying for traveling mercies for you too.
All right, everybody, so we have some wonderful volunteers who are passing out signs. We want you all to grab a wonderful sign of things that are on Donovan's platform and come take a group picture and show everybody who and what we are supporting. So if you have a sign already, please make your way up here. And if you need a sign, they'll be passing you one, okay, guys?